NBA Now is presented by Manscaped. When you go to manscaped.com/chat, you can get 20% off plus free shipping at all of their men's grooming products. I'm your host, Harrison Graham, here on Chat Sports. And on today's video, let's break down the Eastern Conference playoff bracket. The East is set now that the Eastern side of the NBA play-in tournament is finished. The Washington Wizards were able to secure the final playoff spot. They took down Indiana 142-115 on Thursday night. They get the number 8 seed and will go on to advance to play the Philadelphia 76ers. Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook come up big, and they secure a playoff spot after a very slow start to the season. So kudos to Washington, kudos to Beal and Westbrook for rallying the troops and making a late push this season and getting into the NBA playoffs. Should be an exciting series. We'll take a closer look at that one and all the series matchups throughout this video for the Eastern Conference. So here's the bracket. It's set. All the matchups, 76ers Wizards, that's the 1 versus 8. Knicks Hawks, 4 versus 5. Bucks and Heat, a rematch from a series in last year's playoff when the Heat won in 5 games. That'll be a good one. And then the 2 versus 7 matchup is the Brooklyn Nets against the Boston Celtics. I think there's a lot of intrigue this year for the NBA playoffs and in the Eastern Conference for the first time in quite some time. Who do you have winning the Eastern Conference? Go ahead and predict it for us here in the comment section. What are you guys feeling? Is it going to be the Nets, Bucks, Sixers, someone else? We'll have to wait and see. Let us know who you guys got coming out of the East. So let's take a look at that 1-8 matchup first here, as Washington will take on the 76ers, who really kind of were the number 1 seed all year long. They were consistent. You kind of thought maybe they'd fall off at some point, but Doc Rivers goes in there, takes that job, and really takes Philadelphia to another level. Am I ready to crown them Eastern Conference champions? I don't know, but they will be pretty significant favorites in this series. Game 1 is on Sunday, May 23rd at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. You see the point spread there for that opening matchup for you gamblers out there. Feel free to do that on your own time. But Sixers, Wizards, should be a lot of fun, a lot of firepower. Embiid, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons. You got obviously Westbrook and Beal as well. Embiid and Simmons, the dynamic duo for Philadelphia. Obviously Simmons doesn't score as much, but with his distribution ability and the way he plays defense, you need him to come up big in this series, and you need Joel Embiid to continue to play like an MVP for Washington. Obviously their only hope is Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal have to outplay Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. It's as simple as that. If they're going to pull the upset, that is what it's going to take. Is it possible? Sure. Is it likely? I don't necessarily think so. Philadelphia is certainly going to be a pretty big favorite in this matchup. So what do you think? Can the Wizards upset the Philadelphia 76ers? Type Y for yes. Type N for no. Get your votes in on this one. Can Washington upset Philadelphia? Go ahead and let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Now, I'll give a prediction on that one in just a moment, but first, Manscaped, told you guys that's today's sponsor. The Lawnmower 4.0 has been released, and mine just came in the mail, and I used it last night, and guys, it changed my life. I had the Lawnmower 3.0 for about a year and a half, and it was great. This is a whole new level. Upgraded skincare technology. It's got 4 adjustable guards there, so if you want to leave a little bit of a landing strip, maybe your lady is more into that, the Lawnmower 4.0 is the product for you. Wireless charging station, waterproof. It's got a very high LED light as well. If you're in the dark, no problems. You can reach those tough spaces, and you can clean everything downstairs. Go to manscaped.com/chat. Get 20% off plus free shipping. That link will be in the comments. It'll be in the description. Don't miss out on the Lawnmower 4.0. So I've got the 76ers in 6 games. I do think Beal and Westbrook, they'll put up some big games. I think they'll be competitive. Those are 2 of the better competitors in the NBA. I think they can frustrate Philadelphia a little bit. I got the Sixers moving on to the second round in 6 games. Let's go to the next matchup here. The Brooklyn Nets, the team that's, kind of been the favorite all year, but their big 3 hasn't played a bunch together. We'll talk about that more in a second. They take on the Boston Celtics, who beat Washington in the first play-in game before Washington ultimately beat Indiana, of course, to get the 8 seed. 2 versus 7 matchup. Normally you'd be like, oh man, this could be a trap series for Brooklyn. But remember, Jaylen Brown out, not playing in the playoffs. So you got Jason Tatum, who's playing really well. Kemba Walker's played better as of late. He's going to have to play extraordinarily well if they want to pull the upset in this series. Game 1, Saturday, May 22nd, 8 o'clock Eastern Time in Brooklyn. Nets a heavy favorite in that opening game matchup of 7.5 points. Now, I mentioned Jason Tatum. He's been on a heater as of late. 33.5 points, 8 rebounds, dishing out 4 assists. He's had to play at a very, very high level. These stats since May 9th. Shout out producer Jeremy for telling me that in my ear here. Jason Tatum's been great. He's got to play at this level without Jaylen Brown to stay in this series, to give the Boston Celtics a chance to beat the Brooklyn Nets. I won't say it's impossible to pull the upset because, yeah, the Nets clearly have more talent with their big three of Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. They also haven't played that much together. Durant, he's missed 37 games this year. James Harden, he has missed 28 games this year. And then Kyrie Irving has missed 18 games himself. You add all that up, they've only played 8 games together. 8 out of 72. That's 1/9 of the season they've played together. So, look, I certainly think Brooklyn's the favorite in this series. I think they'll win this series, but I mean, you never know, right? Like Brad Stevens, Celtics in a playoff series, I think you can't just completely rule them out. That being said, Nets are heavy favorites, and we'll see if this big three can come together at the right time. Are the Nets the favorites in the entire East, though? That's what I want to know from you guys. Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Get your votes in. Is Brooklyn the favorite to win the Eastern Conference? My prediction for this series, I got the Nets in 5. Look, I think Boston will be competitive. They'll play some defense like they always do. But without Jaylen Brown, where's the scoring going to come from? Like, you're not going to slow down Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden nearly enough and be able to keep up with them because you're lacking a 25-point scorer in Jaylen Brown. So give me Brooklyn in 5. I think this will be kind of a tune-up series for the big three to play together and then really get it rolling in the second round. Subscribe to us here at Chat Sports and join us tonight. Chase Sr. will return for a watch party with you guys with producer Sam Brown as well. This Friday night, depending on when you're watching this, obviously if you're watching this on Saturday, this game's already happened. Do or die, Warriors, Grizzlies, watch party here on Chat Sports. Tip off at 9 o'clock Eastern. We will go live at 8:45 p.m. Eastern time. So subscribe, turn on those notifications. Don't miss that watch party, and we'll find out if Steph Curry and the Warriors or Ja Morant and the Grizzlies end up clinching the final playoff spot in the Western Conference. Couple more series to look at here for the East. You got the Miami Heat against the Milwaukee Bucks, as this was a matchup from last year. Remember, Bucks had high expectations last year, and the Heat just smoked them in 5 games. Game 1 will be this Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern time, a little afternoon basketball, as Jimmy Butler and the Heat look to go on another run. Giannis looking for some redemption in this postseason for Milwaukee. Game 1, Bucks are 4.5-point favorites at home. So this will be one of those fascinating series, and there's got to be some demons here, right? If you're Milwaukee, you got to be looking at this like, oh, of course we draw the Heat in the 3-6 matchup. You got to be kidding me. Giannis has to deliver. This is a big postseason for him. I'm not saying he's got to win an NBA title this year, but you better not lose in the first round. That's all I got to say. Otherwise, that narrative of he can't win in the postseason, that's going to continue. We know Jimmy Butler can get it done. He got to the finals last year with this Miami Heat team, and they brought back virtually the same exact team. So, look, I think this is a trap series. I think Miami has a damn good chance to win this series over Milwaukee. We'll ask you guys who you got winning this first-round matchup in the Eastern Conference. Type B for the Bucks or type H for the Heat. The Heat were the one lower-seeded team you did not want to draw if you're Milwaukee, Brooklyn, or Philadelphia. Unfortunately for the Bucks, they drew them, and I'm going with the Heat. I think they do it 2 years in a row. Give me Miami in 6 games, and then the conversations continue in Milwaukee. How do they retool the roster this offseason? Could be wrong. Bucks are certainly capable of winning this series, but I think come playoff time, I trust Jimmy Butler more than Giannis Antetokounmpo, and in the playoffs, it's all about the superstars. Final series, and hey, maybe the most fun one, right? Like 2 teams that did not expect to be here. The Hawks fired Lloyd Pierce, their head coach, early on in the year. They were playing so bad. Nate McMillan gets promoted, and he's been outstanding. And the Knicks were projected to be like the 13th seed in the East. Tom Thibodeau, a Coach of the Year candidate, such a fun matchup. Like Knicks defense, Hawks offense. This is going to be fun. You got Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett for New York. You got Trae Young and John Collins. A couple of nice young duos for each of these teams. Game 1 will be this Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time at Madison Square Garden. And that spread for the first game, 1 point in favor of the Knicks. This is going to be a dogfight. This is going to be a fun matchup. Now, I don't think either of these teams can win the East, but both these teams have already overachieved. Making the playoffs and getting that 4-5 seed for both these teams, huge deal. But if you could win a series, that's huge momentum for the future for either the Knicks or the Hawks. You got Julius Randle for the Knicks, who's been kind of a second-tier MVP candidate all year long. He's run away with the most improved player, 24, 10, and 6, 41% from 3. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Trae Young hasn't put quite the numbers up that he put last year, but he's still been very good, 25 points, 9.5 assists. He's grabbing 4 rebounds. The three-point percentage has dipped this year a little bit, about 34.5%, but we know how dangerous he can be. The Hawks can score with anybody. The Knicks can slow down a lot of teams, so it's truly a matchup of strengths and weaknesses when these two teams meet up for a 7-game series. Who do you guys think the better player is? Because I think the answer to this will win this series. The player out of Randle and Young, whoever plays better in this series will win this series. Type R if you think it's Julius Randle. Type Y if you think it's Trae Young. I think this year it's been Julius Randle. He's been more consistent, so I'll type my R in the comments. But go ahead and get your votes in. I think this is going to go the distance. I think this series, out of all the Eastern Conference ones, is the most, while under the radar, also most exciting. I think Knicks-Hawks is going to be fun, man. Like, if you're a pure basketball fan for a first-round matchup, two teams that aren't supposed to be here, that's as fun as it gets. Give me the Knicks in 7 games. They get it done at home in the Garden in Game 7 and advance to the second round. That is what I predict. One final look at the bracket as we wrap up our Eastern Conference playoff picture now that the 8 teams are set. Sixers, Wizards, Knicks, Hawks, Bucks, Heat, Nets, Celtics. I cannot wait. We will have coverage throughout the NBA playoffs here on Chat Sports, so subscribe. And don't forget, Warriors-Grizzlies watch party on Friday night, 8:45 Eastern Time. We will go live, so don't miss it here at Chat Sports.